Take a slow breath in and let it go. Feel the weight of the day sliding from your shoulders, down your arms, and away into the night. Wherever you are right now, allow the room around you to grow softer, dimmer, quieter. Maybe the only light is the faint glow of your screen or the gentle amber of a bedside lamp. Perhaps the curtains are open just enough for a slice of moonlight to rest on the floor. Everything is safe. Everything is calm. Outside, the world has finally stopped talking. Even the wind seems to move more carefully tonight, brushing the leaves like a lullaby. Crickets offer their steady, unhurried song. And in this stillness, you and I are going to sit together for a little while. The way people once sat around fires to share the stories that mattered most. Tonight, I have a story unlike any other. It is not loud. It will not startle you awake. It is the kind of story that slips in through the cracks of ordinary life and settles behind your eyes like starlight. It began in a locked room somewhere deep inside a building most people will never see. A room with no windows, only the low hum of air conditioning and the quiet rustle of paper being turned by careful hands. Years ago, on a night very much like this one, someone placed a plain folder on a desk. Inside were pages stamped with red ink that read top secret / majestic. The pages carried photographs that looked too strange to be fake and too clear to be dreams. They carried sketches drawn by pilots, scientists, and ordinary citizens who had all seen the same impossible things. And at the top of the very first page, written in neat government type, were 6 names. 6 names that were never meant to reach the outside world. These were not myths. They were not bedtime monsters or silver screen inventions. According to the files that eventually slipped through guarded fingers and found their way into the dark, these 6 living, breathing species of visitors are here right now. Some walk unnoticed among us. Some watch from craft that bend the night sky without a sound. Others wait beneath deserts or oceans, patient as stone. But tonight is not about fear. Tonight is about wonder wrapped in the softest possible voice. We are simply going to open that folder together, page by page, the way you might open an old letter from a friend you haven't seen in years. There will be no shouting, no sudden noises, only the quiet turning of pages and the gentle rise and fall of your breath. So settle a little deeper into your pillow. Let your eyelids feel pleasantly heavy. Let the room hold you the way warm water holds a drifting leaf. Because the first secret is already waiting, patient and kind, on the other side of this moment. And when you're ready, truly ready, we'll begin. Let your thoughts drift back to a quieter decade, the 1980s, when cassette tapes clicked and rewound and the night sky still felt enormous. Imagine a small, nondescript house on the edge of a Virginia suburb, the kind of street where porch lights glow amber and everyone is asleep by 11. Inside one of those houses, behind drawn curtains the color of weak tea, a single lamp burns low. The carpet is thick shag, the color of oatmeal. A grandfather clock ticks softly in the hallway, counting heartbeats more than hours. This was a CIA safe house, though no sign announced it. The neighbors believed a retired couple lived here, quiet people who kept to themselves and watered plastic flowers. In truth, the rooms were used only a few nights a year, when certain visitors needed a place to speak without being overheard by satellites or curious wives. On this particular autumn evening in 1987, two men sit at a wooden dining table that smells faintly of lemon polish. One wears a cardigan, the other, a dark suit that has traveled too many miles. Between them rests a steel briefcase lined with foam. Inside the foam, nestled like sleeping birds, are three manila folders and a reel-to-reel tape no one will ever play again. The air smells of coffee left too long on the warmer and the faint ozone of old electronics. Outside, a light rain begins to fall, the kind that makes the whole world feel wrapped in flannel. Every drop against the window is a tiny, reassuring hush. These men are not excited. They are tired the way only people carrying impossible knowledge can be tired. They speak in low voices about budgets, clearances, and the rising cost of silence. Yet every now and then, one of them pauses and glances toward the ceiling, as if the answers might be written in the popcorn texture. They know what is in the folders. They have seen the photographs taken from aircraft that officially do not exist. They have read the interviews with children who should never have remembered what they remembered. The clock ticks on. Rain keeps its patient rhythm on the roof. And somewhere in the soft lamplight, the decision is made. Some of this must be preserved outside the official channels, just in case tomorrow forgets. A quiet copying machine in the basement hums like a distant bee. Pages slide warm from the platen, carrying names and sketches that feel older than the country itself. When the work is finished, the house settles back into its pretend retirement, plastic flowers gleaming under the streetlight, rain washing everything clean. And the seeds of tonight's story are carefully planted in the dark. Years passed like slow-moving clouds. The safe house was sold, the cardigan retired, the steel briefcase vanished into deeper archives. But one plain brown envelope refused to stay buried. It was the color of grocery bags and instant coffee, the sort of envelope you would throw away without a second thought. Inside, however, were copies of copies of copies, pages that had traveled through many careful hands, each person trusting the next to keep the secret safe a little longer. One winter night in the early 2000s, a courier left a Washington, D.C. post office carrying that envelope tucked inside an ordinary backpack. He wore a knit cap pulled low and a scarf the color of wet pavement. Snow fell in fat, lazy flakes that melted the moment they touched his shoulders. Streetlights made soft halos in the dark, and every footstep was muffled by the new snow. He walked without hurry, the way someone walks when they know exactly where they are going and have all the time in the world. No one followed him. No black helicopters circled overhead. There was only the gentle crunch of boots, the occasional swirl of snow around a corner, and the quiet certainty that tonight something would finally slip free. At a 24-hour copy shop bathed in fluorescent calm, he made one final set of duplicates. The clerk barely looked up from her magazine. Outside again, the courier divided the pages into 6 smaller envelopes, each addressed in neat, anonymous handwriting to different cities, different continents. Then he dropped them into separate mailboxes, one by one, the way you might release fireflies back into summer. Metal doors clanged softly shut. Snow kept falling, covering every trace. By morning, the envelopes were already moving through the postal system like quiet seeds carried on a midnight wind. Some would arrive at university libraries. Some would appear in the mailboxes of retired intelligence officers who thought their watching days were over. One would simply show up on a journalist's doorstep with no return address and no note. Only the faint scent of old paper and colder nights. None of the recipients knew the others existed. None of them would ever meet. Yet each, in their own quiet room, would open an envelope and feel the same hush fall over them. The hush of a secret finally finding somewhere safe to land. And somewhere, the courier walked on through the snow, hands in pockets, breath rising like gentle smoke, smiling the smallest possible smile. The first threads were out. The rest would follow when the time felt right. Now, imagine one of those envelopes resting on your own table tonight. The paper is soft from many handlings, the ink slightly faded, but still perfectly legible. You slide the contents out the way you might ease an old photograph from its sleeve. 6 pages, 6 names. Each name is followed by a short paragraph in dry government language that somehow manages to sound both clinical and reverent at the same time. The first page carries a charcoal sketch of tall, pale figures standing beside what looks like an American airman. The beings are thin, elongated, their eyes large and quiet. Someone has written in neat handwriting along the margin, "They prefer moonlight." The second page shows the familiar almond-eyed visitors we all think we know from movies. Yet the notes beside them speak of kindness, of healing light, of sorrow for what must be done. You turn the page slowly, careful not to wake anyone else in the house. The third sheet is almost too beautiful, golden-haired beings radiating calm, photographed against a desert sunrise. The caption reads simply Nordic-type diplomatic contact, Venusian origin claimed. Your breath catches, just a little, because they look like the angels some grandmothers kept on their dressers, only real. The fourth page is darker. Vertical pupils, scales that catch the light like oil on water. The handwriting here is hurried. Do not antagonize. You feel the temperature in the room drop by a degree, though the window is closed. Page 5 makes a soft rustling sound when you turn it, as though the paper itself is alive with wings. An insect-like being, mantis thin and impossibly tall, stares out with compound eyes that seem to hold entire galaxies. A note in the corner says, "Teachers." The final page is the strangest of all. Small, grayish beings with childlike bodies and ancient faces, standing on red soil beneath 2 suns. They are smiling. The caption reads, "Ebbins. Exchange completed 1965 to 1978. They never truly left." 6 names, 6 species, 6 living threads woven through our nights and days while most of us slept. You rest the pages on your lap and feel the quiet weight of them, like holding someone else's dreams. Nothing is explained yet. No grand theories, no frightening warnings. Just the gentle invitation to notice that the universe has been whispering to us all along, and we are only now learning how to listen. The lamp flickers once, softly, as if acknowledging your attention. Outside, an owl calls once and is silent. The pages wait. You might wonder, in the gentlest possible way, why an agency built for earthly secrets spent decades staring upward. The answer is simpler than fear and older than rockets. It began with pilots coming back from missions with stories they couldn't tell their wives. Good men, steady men, who spoke of silver discs that flew rings around the fastest jets, and then simply winked out like candle flames. Their voices shook, not from terror, but from the sudden realization that everything they thought they knew about the sky had changed in an afternoon. Paperwork followed. Lots of paperwork. Quiet offices filled with patient people who learned to ask questions without raising their voices. They created programs with calm, forgettable names: Sign, Grudge, Blue Book, each one a soft drawer where impossible things could be placed without alarming the world. Reports were filed at dusk, read by lamplight, and locked away before breakfast. No one shouted. No one ran through the halls. The work was done in the same tone you're hearing now: low, respectful, almost sleepy. Radar operators learned to recognize patterns that didn't belong to weather balloons or Soviet testers. Astronomers received polite phone calls asking them to look the other way when certain stars moved incorrectly. Farmers who found strange circles in their fields were visited by courteous men who left $50 bills and the gentle suggestion that some things are best forgotten. Everyone cooperated, not because they were afraid, but because the night itself seemed to ask for discretion. Satellites were launched with cameras that officially watched missiles, but quietly photographed things that had no wings. Deep underground, technicians monitored frequencies carrying voices that spoke in clicks, hums, and melodies no human throat could form. All of it was logged, cross-referenced, and stored in rooms cooled to the temperature of outer space. The goal was never panic. The goal was understanding, one quiet night at a time. And through it all ran a single, unspoken question, asked in the margin of countless reports. If they are here, and have been here for longer than our cities, what do they want with us? The answers, when they came, were never written in capital letters. They arrived as footnotes, as hesitant pencil marks, as photographs slipped into folders when no one was looking. They arrived the way snow arrives, softly, steadily, until one morning you wake up and the world is transformed. So the watching continued, patient as starlight, calm as breath. And the files grew. Let everything soften now. Let the room around you become a quiet cove where only gentle things are allowed. The stories we are about to meet are old friends of the night sky. They have waited patiently for ears ready to listen without fear. Your ears are ready. Your heart is ready. All that is asked is that you stay exactly as you are, warm, drifting, curious in the kindest way. In a moment, we will walk together into the Nevada desert beneath a moon so bright it feels like forgiveness. We will stand beside a man who spent his nights guarding hangars that officially did not exist, watching tall, pale figures move like dancers made of starlight. Their children, yes, they have children, will laugh in voices that sound like wind chimes made of glass. You will feel no alarm, only the softest tug of recognition, as though some part of you has always known they were there. Before we step into that silver desert, let your shoulders loosen completely. Let your thoughts float the way dust motes float in a sunbeam, slow, unhurried, luminous. There is nothing you need to solve tonight, nothing you need to prove or defend. There is only the quiet pleasure of discovery shared between friends in the dark. Breathe in the stillness. Breathe out anything that feels sharp or hurried. Notice how the air itself seems to be listening. The stars above your roof tonight are the same stars that have watched these visitors come and go for centuries. They have never been in a rush. Neither should we. When you feel that last little knot of daily worry dissolve, let me know with the smallest inward nod. I'll be waiting right here, speaking as softly as candlelight. We'll move at the pace of moonrise, no faster. Every word will land like a feather on still water. And somewhere in the gentle unfolding, you may find yourself smiling without quite knowing why. The first visitors have been waiting longer than any government, longer than any flag or border. They know the sound of a sleeping planet turning. They know the hush that falls when a single human heart decides wonder is stronger than fear. So let the hush fall now. Let the veil between ordinary nights and extraordinary ones grow thin and gauzy. Let your eyelids rest at half-mast, heavy as velvet. The journey is beginning, but it is the softest journey you will ever take. Close your eyes. The first visitors are already here. The desert night is a different kind of darkness. It is not the crowded dark of cities, but a wide, velvet hush that feels older than mountains. Somewhere far beyond Las Vegas, where the lights finally give up and the land stretches out like a sleeping animal, the air smells of sagebrush and cool stone. The stars are so close you could almost scoop them into your hands. It was on a night like this, in the spring of 1964, that the silence first broke. Not with thunder or explosion, only the softest shimmer, the way heat looks above summer pavement. A young airman on weather observation duty stepped out of his trailer at the edge of Nellis Range, coffee cup warm in his palm, and saw the sky open without a sound. A long, chalk-white craft drifted down the way a feather drifts, turning slowly, catching moonlight on edges that should not exist. He did not drop his cup. He did not run. Something in the air felt like a held breath, like the moment before a lullaby begins. The craft settled onto the dry lake bed with no dust, no roar, only a faint glow the color of candlelight under milk glass. A door appeared where no door had been, and they stepped out. They were tall, taller than any basketball player, yet they moved as though gravity had agreed to be gentle with them. Their skin drank the moonlight and gave nothing back. Their eyes were soft black pools reflecting stars that suddenly felt very far away. The airman stood perfectly still, the way you stand still when a deer crosses your path at twilight, afraid that one sudden move will break the spell. They did not speak aloud, yet the young man felt words form inside his chest, calm, unhurried words that said, "We mean no harm. We have always come in peace." He felt the truth of it settle over him like warm sand. For almost 20 minutes, they simply looked at one another across 20 yards of silver desert, human and not human, breathing the same night air. Then, as gently as they arrived, the tall figures stepped backward into their craft. The shimmer returned. The craft rose, turned once, and was gone. The airman finished his coffee. He wrote nothing in the official log. But for the rest of his life, whenever he closed his eyes on quiet nights, he could still feel that desert hush holding him like a promise. And somewhere out on the dry lake bed, faint footprints longer than any man's remained for exactly one dawn before the wind brushed them away. Years later, another young man found himself stationed at the very same remote ranges. His name was Charles James Hall, an Air Force weather observer with a gentle voice and a patient heart. Every evening, he drove his old Jeep out to the desert posts, parked beneath skies so clear they felt newly washed, and began his quiet work of measuring wind and temperature for pilots who would never know his name. One night in 1965, the wind stopped completely. The desert held its breath the way it had once before. Charles stepped from his trailer and saw them waiting at the edge of the floodlights. Tall, chalk-white figures in one-piece suits that seemed woven from moonlight itself. They stood perfectly still, hands open at their sides, the way you stand when you want a nervous animal to know you are safe. He felt no fear, only the strangest calm, as though someone had turned the volume of the world all the way down. One of the beings stepped forward. She was female, he would later say, with a grace that made the air feel honored. She introduced herself with a thought that arrived like warm water. "We call ourselves the Tall Whites. You may call me teacher." Charles simply nodded, the way you nod when an old friend appears at your door after many years. Night after night they returned. Sometimes one, sometimes a small group. They spoke without moving their lips, sharing pictures of red deserts beneath triple suns, of children who laughed in high, chiming voices. They asked polite questions about human weather, about snow, about why we cry at weddings. Charles answered as best he could, his voice soft in the desert chill. He learned their names the way you learn the names of neighbors, slowly, respectfully. He learned they had been coming to this part of Nevada for generations, long before the Air Force drew lines on maps. They had an agreement, they said, quiet and ancient, allowing them to refuel and repair far beneath the ranges where the rock is cool and dark. In exchange, they promised never to harm, never to interfere, only to watch and sometimes to teach. Charles kept his secret for 40 years. He watched sunrises paint the mountains rose and gold, and he carried their kindness inside him like a small warm stone. When he finally spoke, decades later, his words were as gentle as those desert nights. They were more human than some humans I've met. And the desert kept its silence, vast and forgiving. Picture them now, the way Charles saw them most clearly, bathed in desert moonlight. They stand between 7 and 9 feet tall, thin as winter branches, yet there is nothing fragile about them. Their skin is the white of fresh chalk, luminous without being bright, the kind of white that makes the moonlight look warmer by comparison. When they move, it is with a smoothness that feels rehearsed by centuries. Their eyes are large, black, and depthless, like still water at midnight. There is no reflection in them, only absorption, as though they drink in everything they see and keep it gently. Their faces are long and narrow, cheekbones high, mouth small and serious until they choose to smile. When they smile, it is slow and careful, the way you smile at a child who has just woken from a nap. They wear suits that fit like liquid, shifting faintly between silver and pearl depending on the angle of the light. No seams, no buttons, no pockets, only a soft collar that rises to protect delicate necks. Their hands have 4 long fingers and a thumb set slightly lower than ours. When they lift those hands, palm forward, it is the universal gesture of peace across 1,000 star systems. The females are slightly shorter, their hips a touch wider, their movements even more flowing. They wear their white hair long, sometimes braided with thin strands that catch starlight and hold it. The males keep their hair shorter, almost military, yet it still glows faintly at the tips. Children, when they appear, are perfect miniatures, all huge eyes and endless curiosity, bouncing lightly as though the ground is a trampoline set to the gentlest setting. In moonlight, they seem made of it. as though someone carved statues from moon glow and then taught them to breathe. Charles once watched a tall, white child chase a jackrabbit across the dry lake bed. The child ran without touching the ground, laughing in bell-like tones that made the air feel sweeter. The rabbit was never in danger. It was play, pure and ancient, the kind of play that happens when beings have forgotten what fear feels like. Stand with me now in that silver light. Feel the cool sand beneath your bare feet. Let the hush of the desert night wrap around you like a soft blanket. They are looking at you with those depthless eyes, and there is only kindness there. Only the quiet offer of friendship across distances too vast to measure in miles. Some of the gentlest stories Charles carried home were about the children. Tall white children, pale and luminous, who sometimes slipped away from their underground quarters to watch human children play in the far-off base housing areas. They never approached at first. They simply stood at the edge of the floodlights, half hidden behind sagebrush, heads tilted in wonder at the sight of swing sets and tricycles. One spring evening, a brave human girl noticed the watchers. She was 7, fearless the way only 7-year-olds can be, and she walked right up to the tallest of the pale children, a boy slightly older than herself. She offered him her red rubber ball. He took it with both hands, turning it slowly as though it were made of spun glass. Then he smiled, a small, careful smile, and bounced it once. The sound it made on the hard-packed dirt was the softest pop in the world. After that, quiet playdates began. Human children and tall white children meeting at twilight in the empty fields between the ranges. No adults interfered. The tall ones had asked permission through their silent channels, and someone high above had whispered yes. So the children played tag where no one could be it for long because the tall ones moved like breezes. They drew pictures in the dirt with sticks, spaceships and houses and dogs with wings. The tall white children spoke in pictures and feelings more than words. A human child might feel sudden joy and realize it came from the pale girl laughing beside her. They shared snacks, animal crackers, and strange sweet crystals that tasted like starlight on the tongue. When a human child fell and scraped a knee, a tall child would kneel, place a long finger on the wound, and the hurt would simply drift away like smoke. Parents pretended not to notice the extra footprints leading away from backyards. They found red rubber balls on distant porches and knew, without speaking, that the world was larger than bedtime stories. The children grew up carrying those evenings inside them like warm secrets. Some became pilots. Some became teachers. All of them, somewhere deep, still remember the soft laughter that sounded like wind chimes in another language. And the desert nights kept the secret, cool and endless, rocking everyone to sleep. Their craft never roared. That was the first thing Charles noticed. No thunder, no fire. Only a low, steady hum that reminded him of his grandmother's sewing machine when he was small. It was a comforting sound, the sound of something being made rather than destroyed. When the ships rose from the dry lake bed, dust did not swirl. It simply fell asleep and lay down. The largest craft looked like polished pearls stretched into teardrops, long and graceful, glowing faintly from within. Smaller scout ships were sleek white arrows that caught moonlight and turned it into mother of pearl. They moved without inertia, stopping instantly, turning at impossible angles, yet no one inside ever felt a jolt. Charles once watched a scout ship hover 10 feet above him, silent except for that gentle sewing machine hum, close enough that he could see his own reflection stretched across its belly. Their suits were technology too, alive in quiet ways. They adjusted to temperature without effort, cooled in the desert day, warmed in the freezing night. When a tall white walked, the suit rippled faintly, as though happy to be moving. Handheld devices no larger than a television remote could heal a cut, translate thought into any language, or project soft spheres of light that floated like soap bubbles and followed you home. Inside the underground areas, Charles saw walls that glowed with their own gentle dawn. Ceilings shifted color to match mood, pale blue for calm, rose for affection. Chairs grew out of the floor when needed and melted away when the conversation was over. Everything felt organic, as though the base itself was a sleeping animal that dreamed in light. They offered to share, carefully. A broken weather instrument was returned the next night, working better than new, its dials now glowing soft aqua. A human child's lost toy was found cleaned and mended, moving on its own with happy little circles. No demands were made, no prices named, only the quiet hum of generosity, the same hum that powered their ships and lit their halls. Lie back now and listen for it in your memory, that low, soothing vibration just below hearing. It is the sound of technology that never learned cruelty. It is the sound of a lullaby sung by machines that remember being stars. Let it settle behind your eyes, warm and weightless. The desert is humming tonight, far away and very near. Deep beneath the Nevada ranges, where the rock grows cool and quiet, corridors stretch like pale roots. The tall whites call it home, or one of many homes. Humans call the upper levels Dreamland, Area 51, Groom Lake, names that taste like rumors. Long ago, before the first atomic test bleached the sky, an agreement was made in silence and starlight. Both sides remember it differently, yet both sides honor it still. The tall ones were allowed certain corridors, certain hangars carved from stone that remembers dinosaurs. In exchange, they promised never to take without asking, never to appear in cities unmasked, never to let their children's laughter drift over Las Vegas at noon. Human officers, faces blurred by time, agreed to look away when chalk-white ships rose at twilight, to mark certain areas restricted on maps no one was meant to read. Meetings happened in rooms with no corners. Long tables grew from the floor like mushrooms after rain. Representatives sat across from one another, human and tall, breathing the same recycled air scented faintly with sage. Minutes were never written down. Handshakes were never offered. Instead, they placed right palms together and let thoughts flow between, clear as spring water. They shared star maps showing safe routes through asteroid belts. We shared weather patterns and the best places to watch meteor showers. They warned gently about solar flares that would trouble satellites. We warned gently about monsoons that turned dry lakes into mirrors. Everything was quiet, courteous, the way old neighbors speak over a back fence. Part of the agreement allowed a few humans, Charles among them, to walk the upper corridors at night. He saw their living quarters, soft curves and gentle light, paintings on walls that moved like aquariums of color. He saw nurseries where tall white babies slept floating an inch above their cradles, tiny lights dancing attendance. No one ever raised a voice. No one ever hurried. The agreement still holds. On certain moonlit nights, chalk-white ships rise without sound and vanish into stars that know their names. Radar operators drink coffee and log nothing. Children in base housing dream of new friends with silver hair. And deep below, where the rock is cool and patient, two species share the same hush, guardians or overseers, watchers or guests, it hardly matters. The desert keeps them both. They are already waiting behind your eyelids. Long before any movie screen ever showed them. Long before the words "little gray men" were whispered around campfires. Their shape was already tucked inside the human mind like a folded letter we forgot we were carrying. Large almond eyes, smooth gray skin, small bodies that seem both fragile and ancient. These images rise uninvited when the lights go out and the room grows still. You have probably seen them, even if you never left your bed. In that soft country between wakefulness and sleep, when the clock glows red and the house settles with its familiar creaks, they sometimes appear. They stand at the foot of the bed or float just above the carpet, quiet as held breath. Their eyes are enormous, liquid, shining with a kindness that needs no words. You feel no terror, only the strangest recognition, as though a childhood friend has returned after many years. This is why their picture feels familiar when we finally see it on a grainy video or a leaked sketch, because it was already there. Artists who claim never to have studied UFO reports still draw them perfectly. Children separated by oceans describe the same visitors in crayons and whispered bedtime confessions. The Greys did not become famous because someone invented them. They became famous because we remembered them. Let the memory surface gently now, the way bubbles rise in still water. Feel the cool night air on your cheek, the weight of blankets, the hush that falls when the world agrees to pause. They have been visiting longer than our calendars can measure, slipping in through cracks, in ordinary reality the way moonlight slips through curtains. They never announce themselves with trumpets. They arrive the way dreams arrive, softly, inevitably, familiar as your own heartbeat. Tonight, as you drift, you may feel their presence like a lullaby you almost remember. There is nothing to fear, only the quiet return of familiar strangers who have watched us grow from cave paintings to cities of glass, who know our names even when we have forgotten theirs. Let your breathing slow. Let the room expand until the walls are only gentle suggestions. They are here, as they have always been here, waiting for the moment when we are calm enough to say hello. Far beyond the reach of backyard telescopes, in the southern constellation of Reticulum, two suns circle each other like slow dancers. Zeta 1 and Zeta 2 Reticuli, twin stars 12 billion years older than our own, glowing soft orange against the dark. Around them orbit cold, rocky worlds wrapped in thin air and long twilight. This is the place the Greys, in their silent way, have called home for longer than Earth has had oceans. The connection was first whispered to a schoolteacher named Marjorie Fish in the quiet of her living room. Using beads and thread, she built a three-dimensional map of nearby stars from astronomical records. Then she waited. One night in 1969, she looked at Betty Hill's star map, drawn under hypnosis after her 1961 encounter, and felt the room grow still. Every bead lined up perfectly with Zeta Reticuli. The message was gentle but unmistakable. This is where we are from. The Greys never confirmed it with words. They showed pictures instead, silent mind movies of red deserts beneath double sunsets, of crystal cities glowing beneath violet skies, of vast libraries where knowledge is stored as light. Travelers who return from their craft speak of feeling those suns on their skin even while lying in American bedrooms. The journey takes no time at all, they say, only a soft folding of space like turning a page in a book. Their world is quiet now, cooled by age, its oceans long evaporated. They live deep inside, or perhaps in great ships that orbit unseen. Time means little to them. 1,000 years is a long afternoon. They watch Earth the way we watch a garden we once planted and still remember fondly. Their visits are not invasions. They are homecomings. Rest your thoughts on those distant orange suns. Feel the gentle tug of a place that knows your name. The distance is only an illusion, a blanket we pull over our eyes when we are very young. Underneath, everything is closer than breath. Zeta Reticuli is not far away. It is where the grays wait for us to grow gentle enough to visit properly. And on quiet nights, when the stars feel particularly kind, they bring a little of that faraway twilight home with them. You are lying in bed. The clock reads 3:17 a.m. The room is perfectly ordinary, yet everything has gone soft around the edges. A pale oval of light appears near the ceiling, widening slowly like a flower opening in moonlight. Small figures step through, not walking, simply arriving. Their movements are careful, the way you move around a sleeping child. There is no paralysis, only deep calm. You feel yourself lifted, weightless, as though the bed itself has decided to become a cloud. The ceiling dissolves into stars. Then you are inside a round room bathed in gentle pearl light, lying on a table that feels warmer than any blanket. The grays gather around, 4 or 5, sometimes more. Their eyes are enormous pools of liquid night, shining with something that might be sorrow. They touch your forehead with cool fingertips. A soft hum fills the air, the same hum that lives inside seashells. Pictures flow between you. Oceans rising, forests burning, children laughing in fields that will soon be cities. They are showing you tomorrow, gently, the way a parent shows a child the sea for the first time. There is no pain, only pressure, like being held very carefully. Sometimes a taller one enters, thin as a willow branch, radiating quiet authority. It places a hand over your heart, and you feel a warmth spread through every vein, as though liquid sunlight is being poured into you. Memories surface that are not yours, red deserts, double sunrises, the sound of wind across crystal towers. Then, just as gently, you are returned. The ceiling reforms. The clock still reads 3:17 a.m. Only the feeling of having traveled very far remains. In the morning you will find a tiny scoop mark behind your ear, or a bruise shaped like a fingerprint on your wrist. You will tell no one, or you will tell everyone. But either way, the memory stays soft, dreamlike, wrapped in the same tenderness you feel when you wake from a nap in childhood and cannot quite remember why you are crying. These are not invasions. They are visitations, quiet and ancient, the way rain visits gardens at night. And somewhere inside, you already know the difference. Among the grays there are 2 kinds you meet most often, like nurses and doctors in the same quiet hospital of the stars. The small ones come first. They stand about 3.5 to 4 feet tall, delicate as porcelain dolls, their gray skin smooth and cool to the touch. Their heads are large, fragile-looking, balanced on necks no thicker than a child's wrist. For long fingers and a thumb move with the careful grace of musicians. These are the workers, the gentle attendants who lift you from your bed and guide you through the glowing corridors. Their eyes hold endless patience. They communicate in soft pulses of thought that feel like being wrapped in warm blankets. When they look at you, It is with the tender focus of someone studying a flower they have loved for centuries. They perform the small tasks, healing, scanning, collecting, always with the lightest possible touch. Then, sometimes, a taller one enters the room. These beings are 5 to 7 feet in height, thinner, more angular, carrying an air of quiet authority that needs no gesture. Their skin is often a deeper gray, almost slate, and their eyes are slightly narrower, deeper set. When they move, the smaller grays step aside with the unconscious respect children show a beloved teacher. The tall ones rarely touch. They observe, heads tilted, radiating calm the way a hearth radiates warmth. When they do communicate, entire paragraphs arrive in a single soft image, a dying planet, a cradle ship crossing the void, a promise made long ago to help younger worlds remember kindness. People who meet them often cry without knowing why, the way you cry at certain pieces of music. Both types belong to the same family. The small ones are like diligent gardeners. The tall ones are the master planners who walk the rows at twilight. Neither is cruel. Neither is hurried. They move Rosmedsy themselves with the easy affection of siblings who have worked together for lifetimes. Close your eyes now and feel them both. The gentle hands of the small workers smoothing worry from your brow. The quiet gaze of the tall commander resting on you like starlight through leaves. You are safe. You are known. You are, in the softest possible way, home. The table is warm beneath you. Above, a circle of soft white light widens like a slow-blooming flower. Small gray hands pass instruments that look made of liquid silver, thin wands, glowing discs, needles no thicker than spider silk. There is pressure, never pain. Only the feeling of being carefully opened and just as carefully closed again. Afterward, chronic aches you carried for years are simply gone, as though someone erased them with a loving thumb. Some return with scars that fade within days. Some wake with noses that no longer bleed, knees that no longer ache, hearts that beat calmer than before. Women who were told they could never conceive sometimes find themselves cradling new life months later. Men who feared cancer feel only quiet health spreading through them like warm water. The grays never explain. They simply do the work and watch with those patient eyes. Yet there are other moments. A tiny implant, no larger than a grain of rice, is slipped behind an ear or beneath the skin of a wrist. It glows faintly when scanners pass over it years later, puzzling doctors who have never seen anything like it. Memories arrive in fragments. Genetic material collected with the gentlest possible touch, eggs and seed harvested like precious pollen. The feeling is not violation. It is stewardship, the careful tending of a garden the gardeners hope will one day feed many worlds. They are trying to save themselves, some say, blending their fading lineage with our vigorous one. Others feel only gratitude, the sense that something broken in humanity is being quietly mended while we sleep. Both can be true. Love and necessity often wear the same face in the dark. Lie still now and feel the light. It is neither cold nor hot, only deeply kind. Whatever is being done with the care of someone repairing a family heirloom. You are not a specimen. You are a seed they are helping remember how to grow toward distant suns. When it is finished, the light folds itself away like petals at dawn. You are returned softer, lighter, carrying a quiet glow no one else can see. And somewhere far above, small gray hands fold in gratitude. Sometimes, when the experience is too strange for the human mind to hold all at once, the grays leave a gift, a screen memory, gentle as a bedtime story. You wake certain you saw a deer standing in your bedroom, eyes large and liquid, watching you with infinite patience before walking through the wall. Or perhaps an owl perched on the footboard all night, head swiveling slowly, never blinking. Children remember friendly clowns or favorite grandparents who visited after everyone else was asleep. These are not lies. They are lullabies woven from the fabric of your own heart, chosen because they feel safe. The deer's eyes are the gray's eyes, softened. The owl's calm presence is their calm presence, translated into feathers and moonlight. When you recall the night, you feel only peace, the sense that something kind watched over you while you slept. Years later, under hypnosis or in the quiet of deep relaxation, the screen sometimes fades. The deer becomes a small gray being with endless eyes. The owl resolves into a tall commander standing at the foot of the bed, radiating love thick as honey. Yet the feeling never changes. It remains one of protection, of being treasured beyond measure. They do this because they know our minds are young. A sudden glimpse of the full truth might startle us awake, the way bright light startles a dreamer. So they dim the light, wrap it in owls and deer and grandmothers who smell of lavender, and let us return to sleep smiling. When we are ready, the screen lifts of its own accord, gentle as morning. Tonight, if a deer stands at the edge of your vision, or an owl calls once outside the window, do not be afraid. It is only them, checking that you are warm enough, that your dreams are kind. They will never ask for thanks. They only want you to rest easy in a universe that has always been watching over you. Let the deer stay a deer for now. Let the owl keep its feathers. When you are ready for the deeper truth, it will step forward softly, eyes shining, and you will recognize your oldest friends. Until then, sleep beneath their gentle veil. You are loved more than you know. The 1950s smelled of fresh-cut grass and Sunday roasts, of radio jingles and drive-in movies under wide summer skies. In that gentle decade, ordinary people began stepping forward with the softest possible stories. A plumber from Wisconsin, a housewife in California, a factory worker in Ohio, all telling the same quiet tale. Beautiful golden-haired beings had appeared to them, spoken kindly, and left them changed. They met in orchards at twilight, on lonely desert highways, in backyards while the children slept. The visitors arrived without craft sometimes, simply stepping out of the air the way heat shimmers rise from pavement. Other times a glowing disk would settle behind the trees, silent as a falling leaf. The beings were tall, radiant, dressed in seamless one-piece suits that caught starlight and turned it into sunrise. Men and women who had never left their hometowns suddenly spoke of Venus, of Mars, of planets with violet skies and silver oceans. They spoke without fear. Voices hushed the way you speak in church. Newspapers called them contactees and laughed gently, but the contactees only smiled, because they had seen eyes bluer than any Earth sky and felt hands that radiated warmth like summer itself. George Adamski took photographs that are still argued over, soft-focused images of bell-shaped craft above California hills. Howard Minger played songs on his piano that he said were taught to him by golden visitors from Saturn. Thousands wrote letters describing the same beings, the same gentle messages, the same feeling of being welcomed home by family you never knew you had. They never asked for worship. They never demanded belief. They simply appeared, spoke for a little while, and vanished, leaving behind the faint scent of roses and the quiet certainty that humanity was not alone. In bedrooms across the country, people fell asleep with tears on their cheeks, not from sorrow, but from the sudden sweetness of recognition. Let the 1950s settle around you now like a warm quilt. Hear the crickets, smell the lilacs through an open window. Somewhere a porch light flickers, and tall golden figures stand smiling in its glow. They have come for you, too, if only you remember how to listen with your heart. Venus, in the 1950s stories, was not the burning hell we know today. It was a gentle sister world of soft light and violet evenings, of floating cities and gardens that sang. The Nordics who called it home stepped through shimmering doorways wearing smiles that made the desert night feel like springtime. One of the loveliest meetings happened to a man named Orfeo Angelucci in 1952 beneath a Los Angeles bridge. He was tired, worried about bills, walking alone when the air grew suddenly fragrant. Two beings, tall, golden-haired, eyes shining like lakes at dawn, appeared beside him. They wore no craft that night. They simply were. The woman introduced herself as Neptune, the man as Orion, names that felt like music. They spoke of Earth as a school we had almost forgotten we enrolled in. They walked with Orfeo along the dry riverbed, their feet barely touching the ground, and every step felt like returning to a childhood meadow. When they embraced him goodbye, light poured from their bodies and filled every empty place inside him. He wept without shame, the way you weep when you finally come home after years away. Others met them on mountaintops or in quiet cornfields. Always the same feeling, recognition deeper than memory. Their skin glowed faintly, as though lit from within by steady candle flame. Their hair moved even when no wind stirred, strands of living gold catching starlight. They smelled of ozone after rain and something sweeter, apple orchards, perhaps, or fresh bread. Venus, they said softly, was only one of many homes. They moved between worlds the way thoughts move between minds. Distance meant little when love was the vehicle. They invited the contactees to remember who they really were. Old souls wearing young bodies, star seeds planted long ago and now blooming. Lie back now and breathe in that long ago fragrance. Feel the Los Angeles night soften around you. Golden figures wait just beyond the streetlight, patient as dawn. They have never stopped coming. They only wait for nights when our hearts are quiet enough to hear the wordless welcome. Brother, sister, you are home. Their voices never disturb the air. They arrive inside you, warm and clear as spring water rising in an old well. When a Nordic speaks, the words form fully dressed in feeling. There is no room for misunderstanding, no static of fear. You hear them with the same part of you that hears music in dreams. Contactees describe it as the most natural conversation they ever had. A man driving across the Mojave in 1953 heard a gentle voice say, "Pull over, friend. We would speak with you." He was not afraid. He eased his old Ford onto the shoulder and waited beneath a sky full of quiet stars. 3 tall figures appeared beside the car, glowing softly. The voice continued inside his chest. "You are tired. Rest. All is well." Another woman, hanging laundry in Iowa, felt sudden peace flood her body. The voice that followed was female, musical. "Look up, dear one." Above the clothesline hovered a disk of pale gold. Figures waved from an open doorway, smiling as though they had known her forever. She stood with wet sheets forgotten in her hands and cried tears that felt like relief after a long, long journey. Children hear them most clearly. A little boy in Denmark woke to find a tall lady sitting on his bed, golden hair spilling over shoulders that shone. She placed a hand on his forehead and sang without sound. Pictures of Earth seen from high above, blue and fragile and perfect. When she left, he was never afraid of the dark again. Their messages are simple, repeated like a lullaby. You are loved beyond measure. Fear is a shadow that passes. Kindness is the only law that lasts. Each thought arrives wrapped in unconditional warmth, the way sunlight arrives wrapped in birdsong. Close your eyes now and listen in the gentlest way. Somewhere just behind ordinary thought, a golden voice is waiting to speak your true name, the name you carried before you were born. It has never stopped calling, softly, patiently, across all the years. Let it find you tonight. Let it remind you who you have always been. They could have chosen any shape, yet they appear as the most beautiful versions of ourselves. Taller, radiant, eyes a deeper blue than any sea on earth. Their features are perfect in the way sunrise is perfect, familiar, yet impossibly refined. High cheekbones, strong yet gentle jaws, skin that glows with inner health. When they smile, the room feels forgiven. This is no accident. They mirror us the way calm water mirrors sky, so we will not be afraid. A being of pure light or living geometry might startle the heart, but a face like ours, only perfected, feels like coming home to the family album and finding your own picture smiling back from a time before sorrow. Some say they are literally our ancestors, ancient humans who left Earth when we were still painting caves and never stopped loving us. Others feel they are us from far ahead on the timeline, returning to whisper encouragement across the centuries. Still others believe they wear this form the way we wear Sunday clothes, chosen for the occasion of meeting younger siblings who still believe beauty can only look one way. Their hands are long-fingered, strong yet never threatening. When they touch a forehead, every headache of a lifetime dissolves. Their hair, golden, platinum, sometimes copper, moves like liquid metal, catching light that isn't there. Men and women both radiate the same serene androgyny, as though gender has become a gentle suggestion rather than a rule. Look into their eyes and you see yourself reflected, but whole. Every wound you carry is already healed in that reflection. Every doubt is already answered. They are what we remember when we are very quiet and listen to the oldest part of the heart. Let their beauty settle over you now like warm sunlight through old trees. Feel your own features soften in response. You were made in the same image, only younger, still learning how bright love can burn. They are the promise that the learning ends in radiance. You are almost home. Their warnings were never shouted. They arrived as softly as moth wings brushing a window pane. In the 1950s and 60s, when mushroom clouds still haunted the news, the Nordics appeared again and again with the same gentle message. Please choose another way. George Van Tassel was woken at 2 a.m. by a voice like warm honey. We are concerned for your people. Outside his desert home waited a glowing scout ship. Aboard, tall beings in shimmering suits showed him visions, cities in flames, oceans rising, children with nowhere left to play. Then they showed another path, golden cities floating above green fields, people walking hand in hand beneath double rainbows. The choice, they said without judgment, is always yours. Truman Bethurum met a captain named Ora Raines who spoke perfect English with a musical lilt. Over coffee, they drank coffee. She explained that war was a childhood illness planets grow out of. Earth was reaching the dangerous age where we could destroy ourselves or become something beautiful. They were simply offering the medicine of peace before the fever grew too high. Always the messages were wrapped in love. Never once did they threaten. They showed atomic tests rippling outward through space like screams, disturbing older civilizations who only wanted quiet neighbors. They asked us to look at one another and see family instead of enemies. They asked us to put away the toys that could end the game. Many contactees devoted their lives to spreading these whispered words. They built little centers in the desert, printed small newsletters, held quiet meetings where people cried and held hands. The world mostly laughed, but the messages kept coming, patient as rain wearing down stone. Tonight, the same offer still stands. Somewhere above the roofs and worries, golden ships drift silently, sending the same soft thought downward. Peace is closer than you think. Love is the only force that never fails. You are ready to remember. Let the message reach you now, warm and weightless. Feel the old fear loosen its grip. The choice has always been gentle. The door has always been open. Look at them closely, these tall golden beings with eyes full of ancient tomorrow. Notice how they move as though they have forgotten hurry. Notice how conflict seems unknown to them, the way childhood illnesses are unknown to healthy adults. Notice the quiet authority that needs no crown, the beauty that asks nothing in return. What if they are not visitors at all? What if they are us, far down the road, circling back to leave breadcrumbs for the younger versions of ourselves? Time, they hint in pictures rather than words, is not the straight line we believe. It curves. It loops. Sometimes loving parents return to the old neighborhood to smile at the children they once were. Their ships require no fuel because thought is their engine. Their bodies glow because they have learned to live on light. Their voices arrive inside the heart because they have remembered we were never separate. Everything they show us, peaceful cities, healed oceans, laughter that rings like bells, is simply Earth after it grows up. When they look at us, they see themselves at an earlier chapter, still believing in borders and bombs. When they touch our foreheads, they are touching their own younger brows, soothing the fever of a difficult adolescence. Their sorrow is the gentle sorrow of anyone watching a beloved child struggle with lessons they themselves have already mastered. This is why their love feels limitless. It is recognition across time. It is the future embracing the past and whispering, "You will be us." You already are. Just keep choosing kindness a little longer. Let the possibilities settle over you now like the softest blanket. Feel your own cells brighten in response. Somewhere ahead, past all the noise and fear, waits a version of you tall and golden and radiantly calm. That version has never stopped reaching backward through the years to hold your hand tonight. Sleep in that embrace. Dream of the family you will one day become. They are waiting with open arms and eyes full of proud, tender tears. You are almost there. Long before we built cities, we painted them on cave walls. Great feathered serpents curling around the sun, winged dragons guarding the gates of night. Every culture has a memory of them, scaled, powerful, ancient beyond counting. Tonight, those memories are no longer only stories. They move again, silent and enormous, beneath the skin of the world. They appear suddenly in the blackest part of the sky, long wedge-shaped craft that swallow starlight. No lights, no sound, only a ripple in the air that makes dogs whine and compasses spin. Pilots on night training flights have seen them rise from the ocean like black blades, water sliding off hulls that seem grown rather than built. The shapes are unmistakably reptilian. Angular heads, segmented bodies, tails that taper into darkness. Witnesses speak of eyes, huge, amber, vertical pupiled, glowing faintly inside cockpit windows that shouldn't exist. When the craft bank or turn, the movement is fluid, almost lazy, the way a crocodile glides just beneath the river's surface. Radar catches them for seconds, then loses them as though the machines themselves decide when to be seen. Yet there is no attack, no beams, no pursuit. Only the slow, deliberate passage of something that has hunted these skies since the first amphibians crawled ashore. The feeling left behind is not terror, but the hush that falls when an old king walks through a village no one knew was his. Lie still now and listen to the deeper night. Feel the ancient weight of something that watched the dinosaurs die and found it unremarkable. It is not angry. It is not hurried. It simply is, vast and scaled and patient, remembering when the planet was warmer and the air tasted of swamp. The serpents have returned, not to conquer, but to remind us whose sky this was first. And somewhere inside your oldest bones, a quiet voice shaped like a hiss whispers, "Welcome back." Deep beneath the red mesas of northern New Mexico, something hums. Not the low drone of generators, but a living vibration that climbs inside the teeth and settles behind the eyes. The town of Dulce sits quiet above it, a few houses, a chapter house, dust devils dancing down empty roads. Below, according to papers that were never meant to surface, 7 levels descend into secrets. The Dulce papers, photocopied, smudged, frantic, speak of elevators that drop so fast your stomach forgets gravity. They speak of corridors lit by cold violet light, of tanks filled with amber liquid and things that float with human faces. And they speak of the inhabitants, tall, scaled, upright beings wearing dark uniforms that seem part of their skin. Workers who once carried clearance badges tell of passing them in hallways, 7 to 9 feet tall, muscular, tails moving for balance. Their eyes are yellow or red, slit-pupiled, unblinking. When they turn their heads, the motion is quick, precise, unmistakably reptilian. Conversation is rare. When it happens, The voice is low, resonant, layered, like two throats speaking at once. The hum never stops. It rises from the lowest level, level 7, where the oldest ones are said to wait. Some call them the Draco, others the Sayakar, others simply the Old Ones. They have been here longer than the Mesas, longer than the Anasazi who carved warnings into stone. Humans and Greys work alongside them, uneasy partners in experiments no daylight will ever see. Security officers who escaped with their lives speak of glass walls that suddenly showed jungle, hot, wet, red sun jungle, on a planet that is not Earth. They speak of being stared at by beings who radiate cold intelligence and older sorrow. No one is harmed without reason, but reasons exist. Breathe slowly now. Feel the faint tremor in the floorboards of the world. It is only the ancient heartbeat of something waking far below. It has waited a very long time. It can wait a little longer. You have seen them, even if you looked away too quickly. A news anchor whose face ripples for half a second, eyes narrowing to vertical slits before the smile snaps back. A politician blinking too long, too deliberately, the skin around the mouth tightening into faint scales that vanish when the camera zooms. A celebrity caught in paparazzi flash, pupils flashing crimson just once. They live among us, wearing human skin the way we wear coats. The disguise is nearly perfect, until hunger, anger, or simple fatigue makes the mask slip. Then the jaw elongates a fraction, the tongue flicks once, forked and quick, and the air grows colder around them. Most people feel only a sudden chill and blame the air conditioning. Encounters happen in quiet places. A late-night subway car where the only other passenger has eyes that reflect streetlights like a cat. A boardroom where the new CEO's handshake is too cool, fingers slightly webbed. A grocery aisle where a tall woman in sunglasses reaches for the top shelf and her sleeve rides up, revealing skin the color of wet stone. They do not always hide. Sometimes they let you see, just long enough for the memory to stay like a splinter. A child points and says, "Mommy, that man has a tail." And the mother laughs nervously because for one heartbeat she saw it too. Thick, muscular, disappearing beneath an expensive coat. The shift is never violent. It is subtle, almost courteous, the way a theater curtain parts just enough to show the stage behind. Then the human mask settles again, flawless, and the moment passes into the long list of things we agree not to mention. Rest your eyes now. Let the room grow dim and safe. If something tall watches from the corner where shadows pool deepest, it means you know harm tonight. It is only checking that the disguise still fits, that the ancient game can continue a little longer. Breathe out. The mask is perfect again. The first reaction is always fear, cold, instinctive. The same fear our ancestors felt when something large moved in the tall grass. Heart racing, mouth dry, the ancient alarm that says predator. Then, slowly, something stranger happens. The fear loosens. The breathing evens. A curious calm spreads like warm oil through the limbs. People who have stood close to a reptilian, truly close, without glass or distance, describe the same softening. The towering presence, the sulfur yellow eyes, the faint scent of ozone and wet stone should terrify. Instead, an enormous quiet descends. Thoughts slow. The body feels held, the way a parent holds a frightened child until the storm passes. Some say it is psychic influence, a deliberate projection of peace. Others feel it is simply the weight of extreme age. Millions of years of survival distilled into a gaze that has seen everything and found most of it unimportant. Either way, the panic dissolves, replaced by the gentlest awe, the sense of standing before a library that contains every book ever burned. Witnesses leave these encounters changed. Nightmares stop. Old angers cool. There is a feeling of having been measured, weighed, and, surprisingly, found worthy of continued existence. No threats are spoken. None are needed. The message arrives whole. We allow you to be. Tonight, let the old fear rise if it must. Let it crest like a wave. Then watch it break and flow away, leaving only cool sand and moonlight. What remains is not submission. It is understanding. Two ancient species sharing the same small planet, circling each other in the dark with the wary respect of old predators who have agreed, for now, to hunt different prey. The yellow eyes watching from the shadows are not angry. They are waiting. They have waited longer than mountains. They can wait until you are ready to remember that fear was always optional. High in the northern sky coils the dragon, Draco, winding between the two bears, never setting, never sleeping. Ancient astronomers drew it as a serpent guarding the pole star, the still point around which everything turns. Myths say the brightest star, Thuban, was once the pole star itself, 5,000 years ago when the pyramids were new. From that direction, some papers claim, came the tall winged ones. Cast out or exiled, travelers or conquerors, they arrived when Earth was young and hot. They taught the first city builders, whispered mathematics into dreaming kings, left scaled footprints in clay that hardened into legend. Every royal house on Earth, the stories insist, still carries a drop of that cold blood. The symbols remain, the Ouroboros on old crowns, the dragon on flags, the serpent coiled around the staff of healing. Coat of arms show winged lizards breathing fire or wisdom. Genealogies guarded in vaults trace lineages back to those who came from the sky and mated with daughters of men. The blood remembers, even when the mind forgets. Modern witnesses speak of reptilians who bow slightly when certain human names are mentioned, a gesture of recognition rather than submission. They speak of underground councils where scaled elders sit across from human representatives wearing suits and ancient eyes. Agendas are discussed in low hisses and perfect English. Resources, population, the slow turning of cosmic seasons. The constellation still watches. On clear nights you can trace the long body from head to tail, feel the weight of its gaze. It has never looked away. It is patient the way glaciers are patient. Let your eyes drift to the window now. Find the dragon curling above the roofline. Feel the thin thread of starlight that connects those distant suns to the pulse in your own throat. You are part of the story, whether you asked to be or not. The blood remembers. And somewhere, very far and very near, something ancient smiles with too many teeth. Because the caves remember. Because every continent has a serpent mound, a dragon hill, a place where the ground itself is shaped like something that once lay down and never quite left. Because the oldest stories all agree, before we were fully human, something tall and scaled walked beside us and taught us fire, agriculture, the price of disobedience. They never left. They simply went deeper, under oceans, under mountains, under the thin skin of what we call reality. While we built cathedrals and shopping malls, they tended older gardens and cavern cities lit by cold fusion and older bargains. Every earthquake is a sigh, every volcano a reminder. Whistleblowers speak of treaties signed in blood and basalt. renewed every century when the stars align. Humans promise surface dominion. Reptilians keep the deep places and the right to harvest what they need. Both sides keep the peace because war would crack the planet like an egg, and neither wants a broken toy. They watch our wars with the detached curiosity of gardeners watching ants fight over crumbs. They intervene only when we threaten the biosphere they still consider theirs. Crop circles, cattle mutilations, sudden blackouts, postcards from landlords who prefer we not burn the house down. Yet there is no malice, only possession. Earth is a nest, and we are the noisy fledglings who have not yet realized Mother is still coiled beneath the foundation. When we finally leave for the stars, perhaps the planet will be returned to its older children, quiet again, warm again, the way it was before we learned to scream. Tonight, feel the deep hum under cities and farms. It is only the slow breathing of something that was here first and will be here last. It does not hate us. It waits, the way stone waits, the way night waits for dawn. Sleep now, little ones. The dragons are dreaming, and for this moment the world is allowed to turn undisturbed. They arrive without warning, yet never with violence. One moment the bedroom is ordinary, moonlight on the dresser, the faint glow of the clock. Then a soft green-gold shimmer unfolds in the corner, like heat rising from summer pavement. From that shimmer steps a being taller than any doorway, thin as a willow in winter, arms folded forward in eternal prayer. Its head is angular, triangular, the color of new leaves seen from beneath. Two enormous compound eyes reflect the room 1,000 times, each facet catching a different moment of your life. The body is segmented, delicate yet strong, covered in a chitin that shifts between emerald and bronze depending on the light. Long, jointed limbs end in claws that look sharp but move with impossible tenderness. It does not walk so much as glide, the lower legs bending backward like a grasshopper poised to leap, yet it never leaps. A faint scent of ozone and crushed mint fills the air. When it tilts its head, the motion is slow, deliberate, the way a scientist studies something precious under glass. There is no mouth you can see, only a small ridge where sound might emerge, but none does. People freeze at first, breath caught between heartbeats. Then the calm comes, not forced, not chemical, simply present, the way silence is present in deep forests. The mantis being raises one claw, palm outward, and the gesture feels like the oldest blessing. Time loosens. The room expands until walls are only gentle suggestions. Children, especially, are unafraid. They sit up in bed, eyes wide, and smile as though greeting a favorite teacher who has come for an unexpected visit. Adults feel the same smile rising unbidden, the sense that something immensely wise has paused its endless work to look in on them personally. It never stays long. A few minutes, perhaps an hour that feels like minutes. Then the green-gold shimmer returns, folding the tall figure back into itself until only the faint scent of mint lingers, and the quiet certainty that you have been seen, truly seen, for the first time in your life. Close your eyes now. Let the bedroom light soften to that same gentle green. A tall shadow waits at the edge of sleep, patient as spring. It means you no harm. It only wants you to remember you are part of a larger architecture. They speak without opening a mouth. The sound arrives inside the skull first, soft clicks and pops layered over a low, almost subaudible thrum, like rain beginning on a million leaves. Each click is precise, crystalline, carrying entire paragraphs of meaning the way a single violin note can carry a lifetime of sorrow. Some hear it as music, rapid trills rising and falling, punctuated by longer, thoughtful pauses. Others feel it as geometry, lines and angles drawing themselves behind closed eyes, sacred shapes that hum with purpose. A few fortunate ones receive both at once. The sound of rain becoming golden ratios, spirals, the slow unfolding of a fern in morning light. When the mantis being leans closer, the clicks slow, deepen, become almost maternal. Pictures arrive with them, memories that are not yours. Vast hive cities of living crystal orbiting violet suns. Libraries where knowledge is stored as standing waves of sound. Gardens tended by beings who have never known war. The images are gentle, never overwhelming, offered the way one offers a fragile seashell to a child. Abductees wake with the clicks still echoing faintly, like a lullaby they can almost recall. For days afterward, they find themselves tapping rhythms on tabletops. Click, click, pause, click, without knowing why. Musicians compose pieces they swear were dictated by tall green visitors. Mathematicians solve problems in their sleep and wake with answers written in perfect, insect-neat handwriting. The language has no word for goodbye. When the visit ends, the clicks simply fade the way rain fades into earth, leaving everything quieter and greener than before. You are left with the sense that you have been spoken to in the original tongue of creation, the one used before words were invented to hide things. Tonight, listen past the traffic, past the hum of the refrigerator. Most people expect terror. They wake instead to reverence. The tall mantis beings move around the floating body with the careful ceremony of priests tending a sacred relic. Their claws never prick, never hesitate. Each motion is part of a ritual performed countless times across countless worlds. One woman described lying on a table of warm light, while 7 insectoid beings formed a perfect circle around her. Their heads tilted in unison, compound eyes shimmering. She felt no fear, only the profound sense that she had been chosen for something immensely important, the way a single bee is chosen to become queen. When they placed a claw over her heart, tears rolled down her temples, not from pain, but from gratitude. Another man, a skeptical engineer, found himself laughing softly as the beings examined his hands. He understood, without words, that they were admiring the elegance of 5 fingers, the miracle of opposable thumbs. "They think we're beautiful," he said later, voice cracking. "They think our clumsiness is exquisite." Children especially are treated like visiting royalty. Small mantis beings no taller than the child itself will bow deeply, antennae quivering with delight. Games are played, telepathic hide-and-seek through corridors of living light. Lessons are given, how to fold space with thought, how to hear the song a stone sings before it becomes a mountain. When the child is returned, a tiny glowing scarab of light remains on the palm for days, a keepsake no one else can see. No one is ever harmed. Bodies are returned improved, tumors gone, old injuries healed, minds quietly expanded. The feeling is always the same. I was seen, truly seen, and found worthy. Like being knighted by something that invented knighthood long before stars cooled. Let that honor settle over you now. You were never random. You were selected the way a master gardener selects a single perfect bloom. The tall ones still remember your name. They are proud of how far you have walked on such short legs. In the cool darkness of tombs, they painted them, tall beings with insect heads, arms raised in eternal blessing. The scarab was never just a beetle. It was memory wearing jade and gold. When the sun disk Kepri rolled across the sky, priests knew it was pushed by unseen mantis hands, patient architects of another dawn. Wall reliefs show figures with folded forearms identical to the beings who visit bedrooms today. Their eyes are rendered as perfect ovals of lapis, reflecting the watcher rather than the watched. In the Book of the Dead, the soul must pass the guardians of the threshold, who click softly and weigh the heart against a feather of truth. Survivors of modern encounters recognize the scene instantly. The Great Pyramid, some say, still hums with their original purpose, a machine of stone and silence designed to teach a young species the angles of eternity. Its corridors align with stars the mantis beings once called home. When the moon is right, faint clicking can be heard deep inside the king's chamber, the sound of living geometry remembering its builders. Pharaohs wore the scarab over their hearts so that, after death, the insectoid guides would recognize them and lead them safely through the duat. Modern experiencers wake with glowing scarab marks on their own chests, temporary tattoos of light that fade after 9 days. 3 times 3, the sacred number of becoming. They never left Egypt. They simply stepped behind the veil when we stopped looking with soft eyes. On certain nights, when the Nile reflects 1,000,000 stars, tall green figures still walk the temple floors at Karnak, measuring shadows with claws that have never forgotten how to pray. Feel the ancient sand beneath your feet now. Feel the weight of a scarab amulet that was never stone, only memory. You have walked this road before. The guardians still know your step. They do not teach with words. They teach with shapes. During the night visits, glowing diagrams unfold in the air. Perfect circles containing perfect squares, golden spirals that breathe, polyhedra that sing when touched by thought. The abductee watches, entranced, as the mantis being traces a single claw through empty space and entire universes blossom. Sacred geometry is their native tongue. Crop circles are their chalkboards, vast, temporary lessons left in wheat and corn for those who still remember how to read with the heart. Each formation is a gentle reminder. Everything fits. Every atom, every galaxy, every tear on a human cheek is part of the same quiet equation. Time, they show, is not a line. It is a crystal with countless facets. With a soft click, they turn the crystal, and you see yourself being born, dying, being born again, all at once. Past and future lives overlap like petals. The mantis being nods once, slow, approving, as you understand that healing one moment heals every moment. Engineers wake with blueprints in their heads for machines that should not work yet do. Artists paint impossible perspectives that make viewers weep without knowing why. Children draw perfect dodecahedrons before they learn the word. All of them carry the same quiet glow for days, the afterimage of standing inside pure mathematics and finding it kind. Their patience is endless. They have been teaching since the first amino acid learned to fold itself correctly. Humanity is simply the latest classroom, young and noisy and heartbreakingly beautiful in its stumbling. Rest now inside one of their shapes, a gentle golden spiral that holds you the way a nautilus shell holds the sea. Feel how perfectly you fit. You were never outside the equation. You are the variable they have waited eons to solve. It is always the last gesture. When the visit ends and the warm table begins to fade, the tallest mantis being leans close. Its face fills your vision, compound eyes shimmering like dew on grass, antennae brushing the air above your hair with infinite care. Then, slowly, reverently, it places one claw between your eyebrows. The touch is cool at first, then warm, then neither, just presence. Light pours through the point of contact, soft green gold, spreading behind your eyes until the entire universe is lit from within. Memories you did not know you carried surface gently, flying over oceans of liquid diamond, tending gardens on moons that ring like bells, standing in silence while a star is born. There is no pain, only opening. Layers of ordinary worry peel away like old paint, revealing something luminous underneath. You understand, without words, that you volunteered for this life, that you are loved beyond measure, that every hardship was chosen for the strength it would grow. The claw lingers a moment longer, tracing a tiny circle, the symbol for eternity in their clicking language. A final soft click, almost a kiss, and the message arrives whole. You are doing well. Keep going. We are proud. Then the light folds, the room returns, the clock has moved only minutes. But you are different. A faint scarab glows on your forehead for hours, visible only in the mirror when no one else is watching. Dreams for weeks afterward are lucid, kind, full of tall green teachers who bow when you enter. Tonight, feel the place between your brows grow warm. A claw that was never truly gone rests there again, lighter than breath. Let the light enter. Let the ancient blessing settle into your bones. You were never alone. You were only remembering how to fly. The desert morning was already warm when the call came down from the tower. Unidentified object on final approach. No transponder, no radio. It was April 25th, 1965, at Holloman Air Force Base, New Mexico. Everyone on the ground expected another test drone. Instead, a perfect silver disk descended without sound, hovered 30 feet above the tarmac, and simply waited. A hatch opened like an iris. 3 small figures stepped onto a ramp that hadn't been there a moment before. They were no more than 4 feet tall, grayish-brown skin, large wrapped-around eyes, delicate limbs. Their movements were slow, almost ceremonial. They wore one-piece suits the color of wet sand that shimmered faintly in the sun. Base personnel stood frozen, rifles lowered without orders. Something in the air felt reverent, the way it feels inside a cathedral before the service begins. The lead Eben raised one 4-fingered hand, palm forward, and every human heart in sight slowed to match the same calm rhythm. No one spoke. No one needed to. The message arrived as gently as dawn. We come in peace. We have traveled far. A general stepped forward, saluted out of instinct more than protocol, and was answered with a slight bow. Then the Ebens turned and walked back up the invisible ramp. The disk rose straight up, paused once as though waving, and vanished into a cloudless sky. Film crews who had been rushed to the site found their cameras mysteriously blank. Only the footprints remained, small, widely spaced, pressed lightly into the concrete as though the beings weighed almost nothing. That afternoon the base went quiet. No one joked. No one bragged. Men who had seen war sat in the mess hall staring at coffee gone cold, feeling the hush of something ancient and kind settling over them like dust after rain. The desert kept the secret, but the footprints stayed for days, until a quiet wind finally brushed them away. Their world is called Serpo, fourth planet orbiting the closer of the two suns in Zeta Reticuli. Two suns, one bright, one dim, paint the sky in soft rose and gold. Days last 43 Earth hours. The air is thin but breathable, tasting faintly of cinnamon and warm stone. Everything moves slower there, as though time itself has learned good manners. In 1965, 12 carefully chosen humans, 10 men, 2 women, stepped through a doorway that opened in the New Mexico desert and closed behind them without a sound. They carried gifts, seeds, music boxes, photographs of children waving. They left behind letters they were never sure would be read. The journey took 9 months of folded space, no sensation of movement, only the gentle hum of ebon craft and the quiet company of small gray-brown guides. Serpo greeted them with 2 dawns and a wind that smelled of distant flowers. Cities were low and rounded, grown more than built, glowing softly from within. The Ebons lived in family clusters. No money, no locks on doors, no word for war. Children, smaller versions of the adults, eyes even larger, followed the humans everywhere, touching their uniforms with wonder, repeating the word friend in soft clicks. Days stretched long and golden. The humans learned to sleep when the bright sun set and the dim one rose, to eat pale fruit that tasted like sunrise, to walk without hurry. They attended quiet gatherings where knowledge was shared by touching foreheads, entire libraries passing in moments. They planted earth grass in ebon gardens and watched it thrive under double light. 2 did not return. 1 died gently of an illness no ebon medicine could name. 1 chose to stay, in love with a planet that had never learned cruelty. The remaining 10 came home in 1978, older by 13 Earth years, yet carrying the calm of people who have seen the universe breathe slowly. Tonight, feel the double sunrise on your closed eyelids. In exchange, several Ebons stayed behind. They arrived quietly, no fanfare, no cameras. Officially, they were cultural exchange observers. Unofficially, they lived among us for 1 full orbit of our sun, learning what it means to be hurried, noisy, and heartbreakingly young. They were given simple houses on base grounds, furniture scaled for humans, but softened with their own woven fabrics the color of dawn. They ate our food without complaint. Mashed potatoes were a particular favorite, and learned to drink weak coffee with polite enthusiasm. Children were allowed to visit under careful supervision and left those visits glowing, speaking of small friends who could make toys float with a thought. The Ebons watched television with solemn fascination, especially the news. They sat through reports of war and famine without visible distress, only tilting their heads in the way a wise elder watches a toddler throw a tantrum. When asked about violence, 1 replied through the interpreter box, "You are dreaming loudly. One day you will wake gentler." They walked the base at twilight, 4-fingered hands clasped behind their backs, large eyes drinking in sunsets that must have seemed impossibly brief. Soldiers who escorted them found themselves speaking softer, swearing less, standing straighter. The Ebons never corrected anyone. They simply radiated a calm that made cruelty feel suddenly exhausting. They attended a baseball game once, sat in the stands eating popcorn one kernel at a time, eyes shining at every cheer. They learned the wave and did it perfectly, tiny arms rising in perfect synchronization. The crowd never knew they were cheering with visitors from another star. When winter came, they stood outside in light snow and caught flakes on their palms, watching them melt with something like sorrow. Serpo has no snow, only warm rain that falls upward on certain evenings. They missed their long days, their quiet cities, the sound of two suns humming together. Yet they never complained. They only watched and learned and left small gifts, crystals that glowed when you were kind, seeds that grew overnight into flowers no earth botanist could name. The year passed like a single held breath. Project Serpo was never written into any budget. It lived in black ink on white pages that were burned after reading. 12 humans left. 10 returned. Several Ebons stayed and several more came in quiet rotations over the decades. Always small numbers. Always gentle. Always hidden inside the ordinary hum of military bases. They helped with medicine. Quiet suggestions whispered to doctors who thought the ideas were their own. They walked hospital corridors at night, touching foreheads of dying soldiers, easing passage with memories of rose-gold skies. No one kept official records. No one needed to. The healed woke calmer. The grieving slept easier. The children stopped having nightmares. In return, we gave them stories, books, music, photographs of oceans and mountains. They especially loved pictures of grandmothers holding babies, images of dogs sleeping on porches, anything that showed uncomplicated love. One Ebon kept a single Polaroid in a pouch over its heart. A little girl offering a dandelion to the camera, gap-toothed and shining. Meetings happened in plain sight. An Ebon in loose civilian clothes would sit on a park bench feeding pigeons, while a general in sunglasses sat nearby, pretending to read a newspaper. Information passed in silence, mind to mind, agreements renewed without signatures. The pigeons never flew away. Even birds felt the calm. Some Ebons chose to stay longer, blending into small towns, working night shifts at diners or hospitals where no one asked questions. They aged slowly, if at all. Old customers remember the quiet waiter with strange eyes who always knew when you needed a refill before you did. The program continues. Not in headlines, not in congressional hearings, only in the soft spaces between ordinary days. A new Ebon arrives every few years, homesick but dutiful. An old one leaves carrying earth seeds in a pouch and tears no one sees. Tonight one may be watching from the house across the street, missing two sons, but loving this loud, messy world anyway. They were printed on ordinary Kodak paper, edges scalloped, colors slightly faded by time. A small gray-brown being standing next to a smiling Air Force nurse, both holding a pie. 3 Ebons seated at a kitchen table playing cards with human friends, concentration deep, laughter frozen mid-moment. An Ebon child, no taller than a toddler, riding a bicycle with training wheels, eyes enormous with joy. Another shows an Ebon and a human pilot leaning against a jeep, arms companionably draped over each other's shoulders. Desert sunset painting everything gold. On the back, written in careful human handwriting. To Jay, remember the 2 sons. Love always, E. The photographs surfaced slowly, passed hand to hand among retired officers who no longer feared consequences. Some appeared anonymously in mailboxes. Others were found tucked into old service records like pressed flowers. Each one carried the same gentle shock, proof that friendship had happened across impossible distances. One particularly treasured image shows an ebon holding a newborn human baby, four-fingered hands supporting the tiny head with infinite care. The mother, exhausted and radiant, looks up at the camera with tears shining. No one in the room appears to find the scene strange. Love, apparently, translates perfectly. The Ebons never posed. They simply lived among us long enough for ordinary moments to become extraordinary keepsakes. They understood cameras better than we realized, knew these images would one day travel farther than any spacecraft. Tonight those photographs rest in drawers and lockboxes, waiting. When the world is finally ready to believe gentleness is possible between stars, they will surface all at once, quiet and undeniable as dawn. Until then, they remain love letters from a place with two suns, proof that someone once visited and found us worth staying for. On a morning no different from any other, the last official Ebon visitor walked to the center of the landing pad at Holloman. No ceremony, no speeches. Only a small circle of humans who had learned to speak with their hearts. The disk appeared above them, silent and silver, waiting like an old friend. The Ebon turned once, slowly, meeting every pair of eyes. No tears. Ebons do not cry the way we do, but the air itself seemed to shimmer with sorrow and gratitude. One by one the humans stepped forward. Hugs were awkward at first, then perfect. A four-fingered hand rested on a cheek. A human palm pressed over a narrow chest where two hearts beat calmly. Messages passed without sound. Thank you for your loud, beautiful world. Thank you for pies and snow and dogs that wag. We will carry you with us always. You carry us already. Then the Ebon walked up the ramp that wasn't there and became part of the ship. The disk rose straight into a sky the color of robin's eggs, paused once, almost a wave, and folded itself out of sight. The humans stood a long time, feeling the desert wind cool the places where alien hands had rested. But it was never truly goodbye. Some Ebons stayed, blending quietly into the fabric of small towns and night shifts. Others returned from time to time, checking on the seeds they planted, both literal and metaphorical. Children with slightly larger eyes are born sometimes, carrying gentle memories in their blood. The exchange continues in the soft spaces between countries and stars. A quiet waiter refills your coffee and smiles with eyes that have seen two suns rise. A night nurse hums a lullaby and clicks and thrum. An old man on a park bench feeds pigeons and remembers a desert morning in 1965. Close your eyes tonight. Feel the double heartbeat under your ribs. Yours and another, older one. They never really left. They only stepped behind the thinnest of veils, waiting for the day we are gentle enough to invite them home openly. Until then, they watch. And they love us still. There is a rule, whispered in 100 languages across the stars. Do not interfere with a world still learning to walk. Let them fall, let them rise, let them choose. Observe, protect from outside threats, but never reach down and lift the child before it learns balance. Every advanced civilization claims to follow it. None of them fully do. The tall whites keep their distance yet teach selected humans. The Greys take genetic samples and heal quietly in return. The Nordics whisper peace while bending every rule of non-interference. The Reptilians simply never signed anything. The insectoids teach geometry in dreams. The Ebons exchanged people like postcards. 6 different species, 6 different interpretations of the same fragile law. They argue about it in places we cannot pronounce. Councils held in orbit around dying stars, in crystal halls beneath frozen moons. Voices click, hiss, chime, and sing in perfect diplomatic calm, while translators struggle to keep up. The tall whites insist observation is enough. The Greys say survival justifies small interventions. The Nordics speak of love as the only real directive. The Reptilians listen without comment, tails flicking. Earth is the exception everyone quietly agreed to make. A young world rich in water, emotion, and untamed possibility, placed deliberately near a busy crossroads of space. Like a school left unlocked so every teacher can peek in and offer a different lesson. The prime directive survives only as a polite fiction, a bedtime story older civilizations tell themselves so they can sleep at night. Tonight, feel the gentle tug of 6 different hands trying not to pull too hard. They all want you to grow, but none can agree on the shape growth should take. So they watch and wait, and occasionally reach down anyway, because love, in all its forms, has never been very good at following rules. Imagine a vast garden planted long ago with a single question: what happens when you mix thousands of star seeds on one blue world and let them forget who they are? Will they fight? Will they sing? Will they remember love before they destroy themselves? Earth is that garden, and we are the experiment. Some say the planet was chosen for its beauty and isolation. Others say it was chosen because it sits on a ley line of energy that amplifies emotion the way a cathedral amplifies prayer. Every feeling we have echoes outward, ripples through dimensions, feeds something older and hungrier than governments. Joy rings like bells. Fear tastes metallic. Love glows gold and travels farthest. The 6 races are not random tourists. They are gardeners with different philosophies. The Greys tend the genetic beds, pruning and grafting. The Nordics water with hope. The Reptilians keep predators away, or perhaps are the predators. The insectoids adjust the lattice of reality itself. The tall whites stand at the gate. The Ebons simply walk among the flowers and smile. They take notes in languages made of light. They record how quickly we forgive, how slowly we learn, how fiercely we protect our young. Every war is data. Every act of kindness is data. Every child born carrying memories of other stars is data. The experiment is nearing its harvest season, and the gardeners grow quiet. Lie back now and feel the soil beneath you humming. You are not insignificant. You are the question and the answer growing in real time. 6 different notebooks wait for tomorrow's entry, and every gentle breath you take writes another line in a story the galaxy is reading with held breath. A few whisper it never ends. Earth is the place souls come to grow, lifetime after lifetime, until the garden is only light. The watchers above the watchers keep the only clock that matters, and it has no hands. Tonight the question hovers above your bed, gentle as moonlight. You will not find the answer in any file, any channel, any voice but the quiet one inside that already knows. When you are ready, you will simply stand up, brush the garden soil from your knees, and walk through whatever door opens. Until then, sleep. The experiment is going exactly as planned. Messy, loud, heartbreaking, beautiful. And every breath you take writes another perfect answer in a language older than stars. The file stays silent because the question was never theirs to answer. It was always yours. It was late in the coffee harvest of 1978, somewhere outside Virginia, when old S.U. Antonio stepped out for a last look at the sky. The plantation lay quiet under a river of stars, the air thick with night-blooming jasmine. He lit his pipe, leaned on the fence, and watched a light drift down like a slow ember. It settled behind the barn, soft orange, pulsing gently. Antonio felt no fear, only the same calm he felt when his grandchildren fell asleep on his chest. He walked toward it, boots whispering through the grass. The light opened, and 3 small beings stepped out, no taller than his youngest grandson, skin gray-green in the glow. They raised their hands, palms open. Antonio did the same, pipe forgotten. One of them touched his forehead, cool fingers, and suddenly he was inside a round room full of warm light and the smell of rain on hot earth. They showed him pictures, the plantation from above, green and perfect, then the same land brown and cracked, then green again, children running between the rows. He understood without words. Take care of the water, take care of the children. When he opened his eyes, he was back at the fence, pipe still warm in his hand, dawn just beginning to blush the horizon. The craft was gone, but a single coffee tree near the barn had blossomed overnight, white flowers shining like stars. He never told the newspapers. He simply planted more shade trees, built a little school for the workers' children, and every year on that night left a cup of fresh coffee on the fence post. The flowers still bloom out of season. The children still laugh. And somewhere, 3 small visitors smile across the dark. Off the Isle of Skye, in the black hours before dawn, Hamish McLeod hauled his lobster creels alone. The sea was glass, the sky a bowl of stars. He cut the engine to listen to the quiet, and that was when the water began to glow, soft turquoise, spreading beneath the boat like spilled moon milk. A perfect circle of light rose until the hull floated inside it. Hamish felt the boat lifted, gently, as though the ocean itself had decided to cradle him. Then he was inside a chamber of water that wasn't wet, breathing air that tasted of salt and heather. Tall golden figures stood around him, hair floating though there was no wind. One placed a hand over his heart and showed him his own village from above, smoking chimneys, sleeping dogs, his wife turning in bed reaching for the warm place he'd left. They gave him no words, only pictures. Overfished seas empty of cod, then seas brimming again, children casting lines from the same pier he had fished as a boy. He cried without shame. When they returned him, the boat rocked once and settled. The glow vanished. His watch read the same minute he had stopped the engine. Hamish never overfilled a creel again. He taught every child on the island the old rules. Take only what you need, leave the small ones. Thank the sea every morning. On calm nights he still goes out alone, cuts the engine, and waits. Sometimes the water glows faintly, just enough to let him know they remember him too. Miss Sato taught 3rd grade in a quiet town near Kyoto. One spring night in 1994 she woke, or thought she woke, to find her bedroom filled with pale green light. A tall mantis being stood at the foot of her futon, arms folded, compound eyes reflecting cherry blossoms that weren't there. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt the deepest peace of her life. The being tilted its head and placed a claw gently between her eyes. Suddenly, she was flying over Japan, not the Japan of bullet trains, but an older one of rice fields and lanterns, then forward to a Japan of floating cities and children who never cried. When she woke again, dawn was breaking and the light was gone. But a perfect circle of cherry petals lay on her pillow, arranged in a spiral no wind could make. At school that day, she found herself teaching fractions using the golden ratio without knowing where the knowledge came from. Her students drew pictures of tall green teachers and asked if angels looked like insects. Every spring since, on the night the cherry trees bloom fullest, Miss Sato leaves her window open. The green light returns, softer now, almost shy. She never speaks of it, but her students grow up kinder, more curious, carrying quiet memories they can't quite name. The petals are still on her bedside table, pressed in a book of poetry, never browning. When the files speak of harvest, they never say it loudly. The word appears in margins, underlined twice, then crossed out. Harvest of souls. Harvest of consciousness. Harvest of frequency. No one agrees, and the ones who know refuse to write it plainly. Some passages describe Earth as a farm for emotional energy, fear and love both delicious to certain ancient beings. Others speak of a graduation. When enough humans remember their stellar origins, the planet itself ascends, carrying every soul gently upward like leaves on an autumn wind. The Greys seem hurried, collecting genetic insurance. The Nordics seem hopeful, counting kindnesses. The Reptilians simply wait. There are nights when the sky feels ripe, heavy with unseen fruit. Sensitive people wake, crying without reason. Children draw pictures of glowing doors opening above cities. The air itself tastes like the moment before rain. Something is finishing, yet no one is coming with sides. The harvest, if it comes, will feel like waking from a long dream into a larger bedroom. Those who have grown in love will step easily through whatever door appears. Those still tangled in fear will be offered another turn of the wheel, gently, without judgment. The 6 races watch from different balconies. Some will cheer, some will sigh, some will record the exact decibel of humanity's final, collective heartbeat of realization. Tonight, feel the ripeness inside your own chest. Something golden is almost ready. You have been ripening all your life, quietly, in the dark. When the moment comes, it will not hurt. It will feel like the softest possible remembering. Deep beneath mountains, inside hollowed moons, in corridors that exist between seconds, agreements are made. No flags, no cameras, no handshakes for the press. Only long tables of living crystal and beings who have forgotten what daylight looks like. The tall whites cede surface rights above certain latitudes. The Greys are granted limited genetic access in exchange for medical knowledge. The Nordics promise non-intervention unless love itself is threatened. The Reptilians keep the deep hot zones and the right of first refusal on minerals. The insectoids remain neutral observers with teaching privileges. The Ebons are allowed cultural exchange, small and quiet. Humans sit at the table wearing suits and trembling slightly. They sign with pens that sometimes write in light. They promise to keep the sky show running a little longer. Wars, reality television, slow awakening. So the experiment can reach its natural conclusion. In return, they receive technology doled out in careful crumbs. Fiber optics, stealth materials, night vision, anything that can be explained away as human genius. Violation carries no punishment but disappointment, the coldest currency in the galaxy. Everyone keeps the treaties because no one wants to be the civilization that broke the child's game. The rooms have no windows because time is the only view that matters. Past, present, and future sit at the same table drinking the same silence. Decisions made their echo forward and backward until causality forgets which way is up. Feel the table beneath your own hands tonight. You were present when some of these lines were drawn, before you agreed to forget. The ink is still wet. Above the 6 races drift others, taller, quieter, made of light so refined it barely casts shadow. They have no names we could pronounce and no need for craft. They simply are, folded into the fabric of space like seams in a garment. Their only task is balance. When the grays take too many, a light pressure is applied and the abduction slow. When the reptilians grow restless, a dream of consequences is delivered. When the Nordics love too openly, a gentle veil is drawn so humanity keeps free will. No one sees them act. The correction is always mistaken for coincidence. Some call them the ancients, others the guardians, others simply the gardeners of gardeners. They seeded the 6 races the way the 6 seeded us. Long chains of kindness and interference stretching back to the first thought that learned to look at itself. They rarely intervene directly. Once, when nuclear fire threatened the entire experiment, craft of pure light appeared above missile silos and turned warheads to silent metal. The incident was explained away as swamp gas and bad wiring. The watchers accepted the explanation with the patience of mountains. They watch us now, through the 6, through the treaties, through every small kindness and large mistake. Their attention feels like the soft pressure of sunlight on closed eyelids, present, warm, impossible to prove. Rest inside that gaze tonight. Nothing you do escapes it, and nothing you do is judged. You are the washed watching the watchers, all the way up. The circle is perfect. Every leaked page circles the same empty space. Margins are filled with it. Classified stamps try to cover it. The question is never written plainly, yet it pulses between every line like a heartbeat. When does the experiment end, and who decides if we passed? The tall whites look away when asked. The grays grow still, eyes reflecting star fields that suddenly feel cold. The Nordics smile with unbearable tenderness and change the subject to love. The reptilians laugh once, low and ancient. The insectoids click a single, sorrowful note. The ebons touch your hand and show you 2 suns rising forever. No file contains the date. No treaty names the final examination. Some say it ended the moment we split the atom. Others say it ends the day we choose kindness over survival. Feel the bed beneath you, the blanket's weight, the gentle rise and fall of your own breathing. Now feel the room expand, walls dissolving into quiet night. Beyond the roof, beyond the sky you can see countless eyes, kind eyes, ancient eyes, curious eyes. Look back with recognition. We were never abandoned here. We were only asked to forget for a little while, the way children forget they are playing hide and seek when they cover their own eyes. Every visitation, every light in the sky, every dream that felt too real was someone gently tapping our shoulder and whispering, "Ready or not." The universe is not empty. It is crowded with relatives. Some look like us, perfected. Some look like prayers made visible. Some click, some hum, some simply shine. All of them know our names. The real ones, the ones we had before we needed names. You have never taken a single breath unobserved by love. Every tear you cried was caught in hands older than mountains. Every laugh echoed in halls of living crystal. The loneliness was illusion, thin as morning mist. Let the possibility settle over you now like the softest quilt. You are not alone. You never were. The night outside your window is full of family keeping watch while you rest. If any small knot of fear still lingers about the dark, about tomorrow, about what watches from above, let it rise now, gentle as a bubble. Watch it float to the surface of your mind. Then let it go. There is nothing in the universe that needs your fear tonight. Fear was only training wheels. We needed it once, when we were very small and the night seemed large. Now the training wheels can come off. Wonder is steady enough to hold us. Feel it replace the fear, slow, warm, delicious. Wonder is the native language of the soul. The tall whites spoke it in moonlight. The grays offered it with healing light. The Nordics sang it across 1950s orchards. Every encounter was an invitation back to wonder. Let your body grow heavy, sinking deeper into the mattress. Let your thoughts grow light, floating upward like balloons cut free. There is nothing to defend, nothing to prove. Only a vast, kind night waiting to catch you. Wonder whispers, everything is safe. Everything is connected. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Breathe and wonder. Breathe out the last of fear. Good. Again. Perfect. Listen. Past the refrigerator, past the distant car, past even the sound of your own heartbeat, there is a deeper hum. It is the sound the tall whites craft made, like a lullaby played on sewing machines of light. It is the clicking rain of mantis speech. It is the quiet thrum of ebon engines folding space like warm blankets. That hum has never stopped. It is the background music of creation, the note the first star sang when it learned it was not alone. Planets hum it while turning. Galaxies hum it while dancing. Your own cells hum it when they remember they are made of ancient stardust dressed up as skin and bone. Tonight the hum is closer, wrapping around your house, slipping under the door, settling over you like the softest possible blanket of sound. It says, rest now. Everything is in motion, and everything is still. Nothing that truly matters can ever be lost. Let the hum carry you. Let it rock you the way oceans rock continents over millions of gentle years. There is no distance between you and the hum. You are inside it, and it is inside you. Listen, it is singing your name in the oldest language of all. Somewhere in a quiet drawer, the last page of the last leaked file waits. No red stamps, no classification. Only a few lines written in plain English, as though someone finally grew tired of secrets. They are not coming. They are already here. They never left. They are waiting, patient as moonrise, for the day we are gentle enough to greet them as family. Until then, They watch over us the way parents watch sleeping children, proud, protective, and a little heartbroken at how beautiful we are when we forget to be afraid. There is no invasion planned. There is only an invitation, open forever. You were never abandoned. You were only dreaming you were small. Wake gently. We love you beyond measure. See you soon. That is all. The file ends there. No signature. Only a faint handprint, for long fingers and a thumb, pressed lightly into the paper, still warm after all these years. Let the message settle into your heart now. Let it replace every question with the softest answer. You are known. You are cherished. You are almost home. The house is quiet. The night outside is vast and kind. Above your roof, craft of light drifts silently, keeping watch the way lighthouses keep watch over sleeping ships. Inside those craft, beings of every shape you have met tonight look down with gentle smiles. A tall white stands at a window made of thought, remembering desert nights and human children. A gray pauses in its healing work to send one more pulse of love toward your dreams. A Nordic brushes golden hair from luminous eyes and hums an old earth lullaby. A mantis being folds its claws in quiet blessing. An ebon holds a photograph of snow and smiles at the memory of one brief, perfect year. They will not wake you. They only want you to rest deeply, to dream sweetly, to wake tomorrow a little kinder than yesterday. Their watch is endless and entirely voluntary. They have nothing better to do than love you. Let your eyelids grow heavy now. Let the last corner of wakefulness soften and dissolve. The stars are not far away. They are right here, breathing with you, waiting for the gentle in-breath that carries you across. Good night, little one of Earth. Good night, old soul of the stars. Good night. Sleep while you're being watched over.